To see you. All right, pivoting back to politics, right after her big speech here at CPAC yesterday, I had the chance to sit down with key Trump surrogate and chairwoman of the House Republican Conference, New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik. Watch. Congresswoman, thank you so much for joining us.
Excited.
Always a lot of high energy here at CPAC. Obviously, they're very excited to see you and to hear you. You just got off the main stage. You know this country is facing threats, both foreign and domestic, unlike anything that we have seen in our lifetime. What was your message to the attendees?
My message was the stake of our country is, this is the most important election in our lifetime. Whether it's, as you pointed out, the crises that we're experiencing, whether it's the border catastrophe caused by Joe Biden's wide open borders, whether it's painful Biden-inflation that is crushing hardworking middle-class families who are struggling to afford groceries, or whether it's the weakness that Joe Biden projects around the world. We see our most precious ally, Israel, under attack from Hamas, and we see China seeing the weakness from Joe Biden. Contrast that with the success and the Make America Great movement and the booming economy we saw under President Donald J. Trump. So I'm proud to be one of the top surrogates for President Trump. I talked about that in my speech, and I also talked about the historic hearing on combating anti-Semitism on college campuses. And what was clear to me is everyone in that room had watched that hearing and the morally bankrupt testimony of those former university presidents.
You know, Congresswoman, a lot of people complain about Congress, that it doesn't really do anything, and all these hearings don't really mean anything. That hearing made a huge difference, and it is added to an effort to try to drive more intellectual diversity in higher education. How do you keep that going?
Well, we launched an investigation, and I talked about this in my speech, how it shows that one person supported by the American people can, in fact, make a difference in Congress. It set off an earthquake and a long overdue reckoning. And you see, in the case of both Penn and Harvard, they're now former presidents. And those schools tried to dig in to protect those presidents and protect, despite the morally bankrupt testimony. So it is clear there is a reckoning. This investigation that we've launched is ongoing. We issued subpoenas out of the committee for the first time in history against Harvard because they were refusing to turn over documents. And the reality is, as representatives for the American people, U.S. taxpayer dollars prop up these institutions. In the case of those Ivy League schools, they get nearly $1 billion per year. We should not be providing U.S. taxpayer dollars to these dens of anti-Semitism. So there's a lot of work ahead, but the investigation is very important.
And they're not only dens of anti-Semitism, but Marxism and socialism as well. Let's talk about immigration, because we've never seen immigration as an issue be a driver of voter intent the way that we're seeing it in this election. The Republican Congress passed H.R. 2. Your colleagues always talk to me about H.R. 2. How do you translate H.R. 2, which a lot of people, which is kind of which is a little jargony, let's say, how do you translate that into a concise message to tell the American people this is what conservative Republican leadership will do to help protect this country from the border invasion?
I'm glad you talked about H.R. 2. H.R. 2 is the Secure the Border Act, and it returns to the effective border policies under President Trump, which people know was the most secure border in modern history. So it ends catch and release, which Biden has allowed to happen. It returns to the Remain in Mexico policy, and it includes construction of the border wall, which Joe Biden has ceased and is attempting to tear down. So this is the strongest border security package that Congress has ever passed. But I think what's important for the American people to know is Joe Biden is trying to pass the buck on this. It's his executive actions that he took in his first days in office that allowed this wide open border, that shifted from the very effective President Trump policies to the opposite with a wide open border. And it's not just the southern border. In my district, I'm along the northern border. We've seen a significant skyrocketing of illegals crossing, including those on the terrorist watch list. So every state's a border state, and people know that, not just Republicans and conservatives, people across this country.
Yeah, they're absolutely getting it. Donald Trump, former president, is going to be speaking here at CPAC, kind of capping off this event. Give him a little bit of advice. Nikki Haley right now, she's getting 35% of the vote. Generally, when you look at the primary, that's still 35% of the vote that ultimately former President Trump is going to need to unite the party, to build a voter coalition. What should he be talking about to try to pull Haley voters as this primary process comes to an end, pull those people over onto his side?
There is no primary. President Trump is the presumptive nominee, and I think it's important to note he made history when he won the Iowa caucus, New Hampshire, Nevada caucus, and he's about to sweep South Carolina. So he comes in first place no matter where he runs, and it is disgraceful that we're seeing Nikki Haley regurgitate Democrat talking points. President Trump gets his energy from the people who stand behind him fully, despite the mainstream media, despite the editorial boards trashing him. We know that he's going to save this country, so I think it's going to be a great speech tomorrow.
Yeah.
He comes back year after year to CPAC, and I know they're excited to host him.
Yeah, give me an example though of, for instance, what should he be speaking? What should he be talking to women voters about in particular? A key voting bloc, and he needs to do well with women voters better than he did in 2020 in order to win the election. What does he need to say to women voters and suburban voters, you think, to say to those folks, look, it's okay. You can come and you can vote for Donald Trump for a second term?
Well, every issue is a woman's issue. I've always said this, whether it's the crime crisis, the border crisis, whether we see the painful Biden economics, and a lot of times it's the moms who are balancing the budget, who are balancing, going to the grocery store, they see that increase in prices. They know it's a result of Joe Biden's failure. So I think the more the president contrasts, which he does very well, President Trump contrasts his success, whether it's economic success, national security success, border security success, with Joe Biden's abject failure, he's going to continue to win. And what I think is also important to note is Joe Biden's numbers plummet, while President Trump's numbers have never been in a stronger position in key swing states going into 2024.
All right. Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, thank you so much for being with us. A lot more America Right Now when we come back. Thank you.